you with the India development debate. And it's time we put the spotlight on the politics of the ratings upgrade. And joining us on the show, four very special people. Sanju Verma, economist and leader BJP. Ghanshyam Tiwari, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Jay Panda, member Lok Sabha and the BJD member. Mohammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress. Thank you very much, each one of you, for joining us. And before I go headlong into this debate and talk about the politics of upgrade, I just have one request to my panel. This is a very serious topic. We are debating the fate and the implications of this ratings upgrade, the fate of Indian economy. We will keep our decibel low. We will not do any name calling, and we will keep our answers brief so that we can cover a lot of ground. We hope to do this in the right spirit, and I hope our participants will agree with me on this one. But thank you very much, each one of you, for once again sparing time and being with us on the India development debate. Mohammad Khan, I think it's only fair that I start with you. We've got a ratings upgrade after 14 long years. Some work has been done. You can oppose a lot of that, but all I'm saying is this ratings upgrade has come after 14 long years. This is a day to celebrate. Are you going to dismiss this? Will you call this yet another jumla? Can we afford to at all politicize an issue as important as this?
Right. Supriya, I don't think it's about politicizing. I think the BJP is vesting too much importance in Moody's attestation. I don't think it's a vindication at all. Moody, Fitch, S&P, all of these people have their reputation, and their method of calculation has been in some doubt ever since the financial crisis. I remember the Commission of Inquiry set up by the federal authorities at the time said, and I quote, that these three agencies were essential cogs in the wheel of financial destruction. It also said, and if I recall correctly, that they were major enablers in the meltdown. And you know why, Supriya? Because they categorized those derivative bonds, which ultimately led to the downfall, as triple A. So forgive me if I don't share the enthusiasm of the government in celebrating this certification. Secondly, I want to say this very, very quickly. Look, if you want to know the state of our economy, we debate it every night on channels such as this, and the truth is the economy is hurting. Let us set aside opinions of private agencies. Let's look at data coming out of the RBI and labor statistics, right? The RBI has given data saying that yes, our economy is going to slow down this year in terms of growth and GDP. Our RBI is the one who has put forth honest data about the fact that jobs are at a 12-year low. It is our RBI who has pointed out that demonetization did not yield the benefits that were hoped for. And finally this, look, labor reports show that after demonetization, there has been a significant reduction in the people in the unorganized sector workforce. These are not good signs and not something that the BJP should be proud of.
Fair enough. You made your point. Before I come to you, Sanju Verma, I want to get a word in from Jay Panda. And, you know, Jay Panda, I understand the Congress is unlikely to give credit to the government where it's due. And you know, Mohammad Khan spoke about the fact that these rating agencies don't have too much of credibility themselves, which I agree. And yet for 14 years, every finance minister has tried their best to woo these credit rating agencies for an upgrade from P. Chidambaram to Pranab Mukherjee to now back to Chidambaram and now again to Arun Jaitley. So how big a deal is this from a political standpoint of view? How big a victory do you think is this for this government and for this government's reform agenda?
I'm not surprised at the improvement in ratings. As you may be aware, in my columns that I write and in various other places, I have pointed out that some of the structural changes that have taken place will yield to the economy getting better after the initial disruption and the pain. And so this is no surprise. And if you remember, if you go back to demonetization, Moody's was the first agency which reported that they expected the disruption from demonetization to last maybe a couple of quarters, whereas many Indian commentators were saying that it could last as much as nearly 2 years. And so that being followed through with the GST and most importantly, the improvement in the ease of doing business index of the World Bank, it should have been clear indication to anybody who's unbiased that we should receive an improvement in the credit rating. Now, one of the arguments I've been making is we can disagree with many things that this government stands for or does, but that doesn't mean we should take a black and white approach and oppose everything that it does. And certainly there are some things that we should have welcomed. There have been legislative changes going back a year and a half, such as on the insurance FDI cap. There have been other steps taken which we've talked about, demonetization and GST, which are willy-nilly, despite the pain, dragging a lot of the informal economy into the formal economy. So this is, I think this is good for India. And while we can argue about how how important credit ratings are, the fact is investors do take them into account, lenders do take them into account. This will help to make more investment possible in India and more credit available in India. So it's a good thing. It ought to be celebrated irrespective of whichever side of the political spectrum we are on. But we must recognize that we sometimes tend to start cheering an improvement without looking at the road ahead. We still have to go a long way to further improve our credit rating. And even if you look at the ease of doing business index, in which we have come up a huge 30 points and are now number 100 out of 190 countries, there are key areas that require dramatic improvement. For example, enforcement of contracts. From last year's 172nd position, we've only gone up to 164th. This needs to dramatically improve. Similarly, in dealing with construction permits, we have only improved from number 185 to number 181 in the world. These and several other such areas need to improve dramatically for us to keep this trajectory going.
Right. Absolutely. Mr. Pana, there is no doubt about the fact that any cheer should lead to more reform going ahead. Sanju, I'll come to you in just a bit and I'll let you have a word on your day of celebration. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, one of the things that Jai Panda says is absolutely right. I mean, can we afford to oppose everything that this government has done? I mean, I know you're two ends of the political spectrum, but are you telling me they've done nothing right in these last 3 years and they deserve no credit for this ratings upgrade? And you know, I also wanted today ask, where are professors of doom today? I mean, Yashwant Sinha says there should be a midnight session to celebrate this. I mean, perhaps that's cynicism if you ask me. Why are people in the Congress, I mean, I think Mohammed today is a brave man. Why are they not talking about this ratings upgrade? Where are those professors of doom? And moreover, can we afford to oppose just everything that has happened in the last 3 years? Is that fair?
Well, obviously it's not fair. I have 3 quick points to make. One, yes, if this rating has to be discussed, it has to be discussed in the overall scheme of where India as a country is going and especially where our economy is going. And where do we discuss that? We should discuss that in Parliament. India has one of the lowest Parliament sittings across the world and we still have not convened winter session of Parliament. So I would have expected, say, Jai Panda to speak up that, you know, this should be discussed in Parliament. Second, I understand, I'm coming to, I said 3 points. That was my first point. Second, most importantly, I want to say that any signal, be it this rating, be it the ease of doing business, if it sends a signal to the world that India is a great place to invest across the party line, we welcome it. But that signal should also tell the real story of India. Wall Street Journal today writes about this rating upgrade and he says that both Modi and Moody's rating is a botch-up. That it states that it is a denial of the state of Indian economy. Our debt to GDP ratio is 68%, which is higher than the peer in which we are being rated. It doesn't look at the signals of what has changed in the economy. It doesn't look at how the credit offtake, private capacity utilization or private investment is an all-time low. And my final point is that let us look at these signals but not use them as a certificate that we can show to the poor of the country. Today the government, which went for votes, spoke about Achhe Din to the poorest of the poor, is using World Bank, IMF, Moody's to tell to the poor that look, it's almost like teasing that look, Achhe Din are here but you don't have jobs, that your rural distress is at all-time low. Farm situation has not changed. We can't promise you anything more than a hollow promise of waiver, but nothing on minimum support price. The story of India lives in India. The certificates do not matter if they don't change the lives of the people.
You made a point there. Let me get in Sanju Verma. Sanju Verma, Ghanshyam Tiwari, they're saying that you know it's a bottom.
Sandeep and Supriya.
And you know both Moody's and Modi are to be blamed. I'm coming to you, and that it does not reflect the economic fundamentals of the country, does not reflect the lack of job creation, does not reflect the stress that's being faced by the SME sector. Your counter.
Okay, Sandeep and Supriya, thank you for having me on the show. And I don't want to be interrupted because I think I patiently heard out all the panelists without interrupting. First things first, let's be very clear about the fact that when Moody's decides to upgrade, the key parameters that they look at are solvency, stability and credibility of reforms. And on all the 3 fronts, the Modi government has done more than the needful. And I'll tell you why. First, demonetization. Despite Modi naysayers saying that, the goalposts have been shifting, the fact remains that, in the last 3 years, more than 1.4 lakh crore of black money / wealth has been accounted for and unearthed, and the Prime Minister made this statement categorically from the ramparts of the Red Fort a couple of months back. Point number 2, don't forget that the World Bank and IMF have said that 20 to 30% of the Indian economy is informal, and the process of integrating that with the formal channels of the economy was pushed in a big way thanks to demonetization. Point number 3, for everybody who says that, you know, the likes of Aadhaar have compromised our privacy, I think today Moody's is bang on spot. Don't forget that thanks to Aadhaar, the Jan Dhan accounts, which are more than 30 crore in number as we speak today, and the direct benefit scheme, more than 60,000 crore by way of subsidies has been saved. And this is despite the fact that, mind you, international oil prices have risen by more than 100% from as low as $29 in 2016 to, as we speak, till a couple of days back, it was trading at $63 a barrel before sinking in the last 48 hours to about 55 odd. The fact remains that the Modi government, which always had the benefit of low oil prices, today does not have that benefit. And despite that, I think what played on Moody's mind was the fact that the current account deficit for the last 3 financial years has been less than 2% of GDP. And I think that is a very telling statement, because don't forget, for the December 2016 quarter, the current account deficit under a corrupt Manmohan Singh government stood at a whopping 6.7%, showing the pathetic state of external finances. And I think that is something which nobody is highlighting. Nobody seems to be highlighting the fact that for the last 3 financial years, fiscal deficit has been at less than 4% of GDP, whereas it was close to 5% in the 3 years from 2012 to 2014 before the Manmohan Singh government was booted out, and rightfully so. Something else which nobody seems to be pointing out,
Sanju Verma, you made your point
and this is something I'll just take, you know, a very short while. One minute, Supriya, a very important point. When Moody's decides to upgrade or downgrade, the key thing which they look at, which nobody has mentioned here, though I do concur with what Mr. Jay Panda had to say, and partially with what Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari said. Mohammad Khan's statements are biased and they really don't even dignify a comment. So let that be. The fact remains that short-term external debt as a percentage of GDP, which reflects a country's solvency and stability, that has come down from 23-24% odd in 2013 to barely 17.5%. And thanks to burgeoning forex reserves, short-term debt as a percentage of forex reserves, do you know something, is down from 33% in 2013 to barely 23% as we speak today.
Sanju Verma, I think you made your points there. I don't think I can give you a disproportionate... No, 1 second.
The external debt situation,
I get that. Sanju Verma, you made your points there. I don't think I can give you a disproportionate amount of time on the show.
Okay.
Sanju Verma, you made your points there, but I just quickly want to point out, while you talk about the Manmohan Singh government, it also tested levels of oil at $150 per barrel. Your government has been lucky to talk about oil at 40. But Mohammad Khan, you know, one of the points that Sanju Verma alluded to, and I think I must point out, Moody's in its entire report today does talk about demonetization, and it very categorically states that it led to formalization of the economy. Now, I know that demonetization as a subject has been dissed, it has been debated. You're, of course, you're a big critique of this, but the fact that it led to the formalization of the economy is one of the factors that played into this upgrade. Are you going to deny that?
Well, I will, to some extent, because the data coming out on digital spending shows that digital spending is now equivalent to pre-demonetization levels. This is again data coming out of the RBI. I want to say something very quickly. Look, Ms. Verma, while I'm shattered, you don't feel my comments deserve a reply. I must say this. There are parameters on which the economy can be judged. And one of the parameters which I like to repose faith in is the Consumer Confidence Survey. The Consumer Confidence Survey captures the personal economic growth of every citizen. For example, मेरी आमदनी में इजाफा आया है कि नहीं? You'd be surprised to know, or perhaps not, that over the last years, consumer incomes have stayed stagnant. ऐसी परिस्थिति में inflation pinches you much more. Inflation could be, though inflation has been at a 6-month high, but even if inflation levels are stable, if your real wages don't increase, it affects you. Finally, I want to say this. Look, you've seen the World Bank report come out. You people celebrated prematurely then as well, despite the fact that it was confined to Bombay and Delhi. I remember at that time, the CEO of Marriott was in India. And the CEO of Marriott, I don't think he was aware that the World Bank had given this amazing report. The CEO of Marriott said it takes 7 years to establish a hotel in India. It is longer than it takes in Brazil and other countries, and you have to get over 180 permits. I think you forgot to inform him of the ease of doing business that you have done all of this. And finally, I will say this, Sanjuji, well, not half as lengthy as your 5 minutes, but I will say this. So, Sanjuji, it is a very simple thing. I think you guys don't prize economic talent. I think there's too much centralization in your government. I'm being charitable, by the way. I think when I read Raghuram Rajanji's book, the fact that when he was consulted in a very blithe fashion about demonetization and his opinion was dismissed, spoke volumes about how your government operates on these issues.
Okay, Sanju, one second. Sanju, you spoke for 3 minutes, and we have the Mohammed Khan coming. I need to go to Jay Panda, who's been waiting patiently. Jay Panda, the point that everyone's making is, while it's great to cheer these ratings, does it reflect the economic fundamentals on the ground? You're an elected member of parliament. You're one of the few people who wrote extensively in support of demonetization when a lot of commentators criticized it. But equally, would you agree that this reflects the economic sentiment on the ground? When you go to your constituency, do you feel that Achhe Din are here? Or is it still a long way off? Jay Panda.
Let me put things in context. India is a large country. It is not yet a middle income country. It has many challenges. So this is not the be all or the end all. We still have to tackle many other challenges, as I was saying a little bit earlier. Let me say 2 or 3 things here. The question about jobs is a real issue. Now we are not creating as many jobs as we should be, but this is not a new thing. This didn't happen this year or last year. It has been happening for nearly 10 years now that we are not creating enough jobs. Also, this is a global problem because of automation, because of machine learning, artificial intelligence. The same growth rates no longer create the same number of jobs as they would have in the 1980s or 1990s. This is a global problem. We need to deal with it. I have written alternative ideas such as universal basic income to deal with that. But that should not take away from the fact that this improvement is a real one. Now, yes, you're right. I wrote in support of demonetization because I spend a large amount of time in my constituency. I spend about 12 days every single month. And the response to that was extremely supportive. That's why I wrote in favor of that. Now, we do have many other challenges. We do have the infrastructure challenges and the other aspects which are still holding us back on the ease of doing business index, which I mentioned earlier. But I think I will take some optimism from the report, which predicts that GDP growth rate will go up from a low of 5.7% last quarter to an annual of 6.7% this year. Moody's also predicts that next year should be 7.5% GDP growth rate. Also, they are predicting a general decline in government debt, not just over the short term, as was mentioned by somebody else, but also on the long term. Somebody was just pointing out that the ease of doing business index is only for Delhi and Mumbai, but it has always been so. It's not a new thing. So let's not change the goalposts. Of course, we need to have other indices measuring all of India. We need to know what's happening in Odisha, Tamil Nadu, other places. But whatever measurement indices there have been, you must compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So I would sum up by saying this is indeed a solid development. It's a positive development that we must all celebrate. This is not to say that everything is hunky-dory. We still have to do lots of other stuff to improve India's economy.
No, absolutely. I mean, of course, there are goalposts that one still needs to achieve. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, I'll ask you this question. You know, before the ease of doing business report came in, or before this ratings upgrade came in, there was an economic narrative that the opposition was building, which was, of course, attacking the government, you know, on various fronts. Do you believe a ratings upgrade like this, which, you know, whether you agree or disagree, is a sentiment booster? Do you believe a ratings upgrade like this blunts the opposition's narrative to a great extent? I mean, you know, you can argue with me that the situation on the ground is very different, but this is what ratings agencies that determine a lot of investments that flow into this country think about India.
Well, opposition in this country is not a merely economic unit. It's a democratic unit that combines voices on hunger index, press index, gender index, and other issues that bother this country. Second, we don't present our case to foreign investors, which is what this Moody's rating upgrade is about. We present our case to the poor people of India, be it jobs, be it farmers, be it what is happening in small and medium enterprises, and be it what is happening in informal economy. I want to make this very, very clear. As a political ideology also, we bat for informal economy. When somebody cheers that informal economy in this country is being wiped out, I want to say demonetization did not transform informal economy. It brought down, took down informal economy. There are 15 crore jobs that get created because our poor, half illiterate people can be enterprising in their streets and build their own small businesses. It is those businesses, those people were hurt the most with demonetization, and they don't care about S&P rating. The S&P rating, by the way, since 2007 has not changed. Moody's is the first rating that has come out. I hope it follows others, but till the day this report doesn't transform into ground situation becoming better, we would not celebrate it. My final point is, at least this report brings a fresh air in the public policy discourse in India, which till yesterday was limited to Padmavati and Mandir. At least now we are talking economy. Hopefully we could talk the same in Parliament, and hopefully we can take this talk from these certificates from World Bank and whatnot to the Parliament. We have not discussed, when we talk about economy and all these ratings, my final point, there is only one state in India today that is inviting investors through TV ads. So if India lives in its states, there aren't too many states that are gung-ho about boosting their own investments anywhere. Have you seen a TV ad from Yogi Adityanath's government in Uttar Pradesh that come and invest in us? No, there's only Telangana, which is not a BJP state.
I'm coming to you, but I just want to add one quick question there. I know you want to rebut what Ghanshyam Tiwari and Mohammad Khan said, but a quick point here, which is the last time the ratings upgrade happened was under the NDA government when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, and soon after we had elections. With this whole India shining field, everyone sitting in urban India felt that the country was doing very well, and we know what happened in 2004. So, would you agree that there is only so much of currency one should give to a ratings upgrade? Sanju Verma, over to you.
Okay, Sandeep and Supriya, I want to make some quick points. First things first. One of the panelists spoke about the consumer confidence index. Let me tell you that the economic activity index, which is very comprehensive and broad-based, for the month of September 2017, registered a 8.2% year-on-year growth. Point number one. Point number two, I have very little, faith in what the Economist has to say, but given that, there are some who vouch for what foreign journals have to say, it would do them good to know that the Economist said that crony capitalism under the Narendra Modi-led government has come down from 18% in 2008 to just about 3% of GDP as we speak now, which I think is a huge thumbs up for the fact that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas is not a jumla. And if you believe so, you certainly need a reality check. Point number three, I also want to make one very moot point. There has been so much of brouhaha about NPAs being 8 lakh crore and 10 lakh crore, what have you. The fact that we inherited a very poor and decrepit legacy is, par for the course. But don't forget that whether it is Pew Global, whether it is the World Bank, whether it is Moody's, what all the three have noted is the fact that after the insolvency and bankruptcy code came into being in December 2016, more than 655 cases have been solved. I think that is something which nobody seems to have registered. Point number four, we talk of farmers, we talk of the marginalized, we talk of the downtrodden, but has anyone bothered to read the Shanta Kumar committee which castigated the Manmohan Singh government, saying 94% of the MSP never reaches those whom it is targeted at. Only 6% reaches the targeted beneficiaries.
Right.
But with, 1 minute Supriya, don't interrupt me now, it's a very important point. But with the ENAM, with the launch of the ENAM, which will finally cover 585 regulated wholesale mandis in the country, farmers will discover price. There will be no middlemen. You will get the best possible price for your produce. And today, more than 250 mandis in more than 13 states are covered by ENAM. I think that's the biggest step that the Narendra Modi government has taken to empower the Kisan. And we are not just talking of euphemisms or platitudes here. Point number four, you say where is the economic activity on the ground?
We got a point number four. Sanju, we've just got 6 minutes of the debate and we have a lot of ground to cover. Sanju, I'm sorry. Sanju, I'm sorry.
Who does it sell tractors to? Aisha reported a 25% growth in profit. Who does it sell its
Yeah,
product
Sanju,
to?
we know all that.
Hindustan
Sanju, we all know. You know what?
Unilever
You've taken
reported
3 minutes,
16%
Sanju, and you
growth.
haven't
It
answered my
makes
question.
everything
I'm sorry.
from
You've taken
shampoos
3
to
minutes and
detergents.
you've not
Who
answered
does
my
it
question.
sell its
You've taken
products
3
to?
minutes, you've not answered
So
my question.
there is economic
Okay,
activity in
okay,
the,
fair
on
enough,
the
fair
ground.
enough, fair enough. Mohammed
Earnings
Khan,
have
Mohammed Khan, a
rebounded.
simple question to you.
Corporate India is doing
Sanju
well,
Verma is not
and
answering my
corporate
question
investment-
on. Sanju Verma is not answering my simple question on what happened in 2004. So I'm asking you a simple question. The last time an upgrade happened was, when the NDA government was in power. It's taken 10 years. Why is it that the Congress government could never convince any rating agencies to give this country a well-deserved upgrade? Surely we were in an economic sweet spot before the financial crisis. In 2007, 2008, the economy was doing well. Our creditworthiness was better. Why is it that it's only the BJP, the NDA government, that does such a fine job? Whether it is convincing World Bank on our improving ease of doing business, whether it's convincing Moody's on giving us a much-deserved upgrade, why does the Congress fare so poorly?
Well, Sandeep, it's hard to want to seek the validation of one of these agencies, especially when they're being investigated by the Justice Department. But if you say so, I'm sure it must be worth something. I want to say something to Sanju Verma ji. Sanju Verma ji, you must understand we're all on the same side on the economic issue. All of us want our country to do better. We want our wages to increase. We want our economy to be healthy. The
No,
fact is we haven't
you are
seen anything
misleading.
of that sort. You said there are no
Demonetization has
platitudes and
had
so on and so forth.
stupendous benefits
No one
which you don't
interrupted you,
seem to
Sanju ji.
acknowledge.
Please do the same
More than
courtesy to me.
1.4
Sanju
lakh
ji, of
crore
course,
of
listen
black
to me
money
now.
has been accounted
Sanju
for.
ji, if you interrupt
More
me,
than
this is not
1.4
fair.
lakh crore
Sanju
of
ji,
black money
tell
has
that
been
to the
accounted
46%
for.
increase in farmer
Please do not
suicide.
mislead.
All
I
the,
will
all
not
the
allow you to
empty points you are
mislead.
making here
I will
bring
not allow
little
you to
worth to the
mislead.
families of those farmers who have committed suicide.
Mining and
A
electricity have grown at 9%
increase in farmer
and
suicides has
8%
taken place
plus
under your watch.
respectively.
You have one of the worst governments,
Industrial
Sanju ji,
growth
and I
has
must
been
say you have a lot of
4.5
audacity
and
when you come here and defend your
3.8%
government's policy.
for the last
Your
two
arrogance and
consecutive
hubris is what
months.
turns people off.
Oh,
The
please.
fact that you can't acknowledge your failures
Standard
when you
and
have so
Poor
many failures to
downgraded
speak of
India
is
to
why
virtually
people are
junk
upset with you.
status under
I
peak
think you had
numbers.
to
Sanju
be more
Verma and
humiliated.
Mohammed Khan, I am sorry. I will not let the two of you talk. The easiest thing for me to do on this debate is dump your audios and move on with the other guests. I cannot have two guests talk at the same time. This is a civil show. I started off this show by saying we're going to discuss an important issue as the economy. Sanju, you cannot interfere. Nobody talks when you were talking and now you're interfering. Stop talking when I'm talking, Sanju. Please listen to me. You cannot be talking at the same time. This is not one of those debates where there are 8 windows and everybody talks at the same time. This is a civil issue. We are discussing a very, very important topic, the fate of the Indian economy. That determines my fate, that determines your fate, that determines the fate of my children. We cannot trivialize this debate. I will not let this be politicized.
You cannot
I
have
will
somebody
not let this debate be
misinforming. I'm
politicized,
sorry.
come what may.
You cannot have somebody
We
misinforming, Supriya.
are giving you a chance to rebut. Two
It's
people
not
will not talk at
politicizing,
the
but I
same
will
time on
not
the
have
show. It's
somebody
as simple as
misleading.
that. Let's move
I
on.
will not have somebody misleading, Supriya. You cannot have people
You
misleading
will
your
get a
audience,
chance to
Supriya. That's
rebut,
my
Sanju,
limited
but I
point.
will.
Okay. Jay Panda, let's talk about substantive issues. What a ratings upgrade does is it brings down the cost of debt for corporate India. Capital in general becomes cheaper, right? So will this, in your assessment, move the private investment, needle on private investment? Because that has been the big concern. You spoke about jobs. One of the reasons the jobs, there aren't enough jobs is because corporate India isn't investing. Private investment isn't kicking in. The private investment cycle is not kicking in. Will this move the needle, according to you, Jay Panda?
Yes, of course it will move the needle. Anybody who is familiar with commerce and with the economy and with business can tell you that anytime there is a ratings improvement, it will improve credit access, it will improve rates, and that will be very useful for investment and creation of jobs. Now, as I said earlier, the jobs challenge is a very big one. No matter what we do, we have to think of out-of-the-box solutions such as a universal basic income. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do things. Of course, we must improve on the red tape that is still holding us at number 100 on the ease of doing business index. We must be in the top 50 as the Prime Minister had set a target 3 years ago. But yes, this will help. We must be, if I were to highlight what else needs to be done, for example, labor law, land acquisition, these are some of the areas that are bottlenecks to investment and to create jobs. These are areas that the government must look at either at the national level or at the state level. Unless we do some very drastic improvement in the manner in which we seek investment, creation of jobs, that will not be helped. So we must see both sides of the coin, but this will indeed help. There is one final thing I'd like to say. Although this will help credit access, the banking situation in the country is a mess. Now, Moody's does make a reference to the approximately $32 billion that has been provisioned for reforming the banks. Now, the banks mess again is not a new mess. The NPAs go back many, many years to before this government. But making the money available for recapitalizing the banks is the first necessary step, but it's not sufficient. We need to reform the banks. We need to perhaps privatize some of the banks. Unless we do that, we are only going to create this problem once all over again in future.
So there is no denying that. I mean, I don't think this government can be blamed for the NPMS, because I think a lot of the NPMS was inherited by the previous government. But I also think, you know, at one level, we must get into the absolutely core politics of this upgrade. And Ghanshyam Tiwari, let me ask you this question. There's a Gujarat election right on the corner. There's 2019 that is coming up. Does a ratings upgrade translate into votes?
Look, let's talk in simple language, right? If you go to complex language, we can say that the Indian government yield bonds are at 7%, which is year-long high, which is in a different direction compared to this rating. But what's the simple language? Simple language is that this government will prosper in votes when the cost of living comes down, or a small nano micro enterprise is more easily able to open itself, create jobs, create resources, or we have a startup that disrupts the global market, or we have different ways by which people's needs are being met. None of those things are happened. The public policy agenda in our most successful states like Tamil Nadu, the public policy agenda is hijacked by the continuous feud backed by BJP. In Uttar Pradesh, the public policy agenda is hijacked by Yogi Adityanath, whose only public policy agenda is Gai, Ram Mandir, and anything which is related to religious discourse. So for BJP to say that economy will be their core plank for elections is not going to happen. The more we have debates on economy, the more we see that BJP is outdoing itself on their religious agenda. They want to go to 2019 saying that they would uphold their religious agenda much higher than whatever be their economic agenda. They will not speak about whether they created a 2 crore jobs or not, which they wrote in their manifesto. They will not speak about whether they gave the farmer the MSP that the farmer asked for. That they will not. So clearly, BJP, when it is unable to fulfill its promises in the first 5 pages of manifesto, will rest on the last 5 pages, which has 2 lines mentioned on Ram Mandir.
Sanju Verma, one point is on, you know, the fact is that how much does this count? Because let's not lose sight of the fact that with this ratings upgrade, it has put India 2 notches above the junk level. We're still way below the top of the pyramid. We are now rated at par with Spain and Portugal, countries which have some 90% of debt, which have a low growth outlook as well. So would you concede that even as we cheer all this, there's still a lot of room to improve, like Jay Panda pointed out?
First of all, thank you, Supriya, for saying that most of the NPA problems were inherited and legacy issues. Thanks for putting that out in the public domain for the benefit of your audience. Sandeep, coming to your pointed query, let me tell you that, of course, the bar set by Modinomics is very high. And for us to be complacent and say that, I'm pretty happy with a Baa2 rating, I don't think that is how it works. Equally, to belittle the rating, for example, recently there was a lot of criticism, the ease of doing business is limited to Mumbai and Delhi alone. Hello, Mumbai accounts for 6.2% of India's GDP, 10% of industrial output and 25% of factory employment, 60% of customs collections, 33% of income tax collections. So please do not belittle rating agencies or the World Bank. Give them their due. Point number 2, I also want to say something to Ghanshyam Tiwari, because you threw open the debate and said let's look at the politics of it. The fact remains, Sandeep and Supriya, the fact remains that electorally the opposition has been vanquished. They have nowhere to hide. They are scurrying for cover. The Tayaji, Chachaji, Bhatija politics of Samajwadi Party has been thrown into the garbage can, and I am not going to mince words. I will not be polite. It is time for them to stop being the proverbial ostrich with head under the sand and think out of the box. We are doing what needs to be done. Let me tell you one simple thing. People talk of jobs. People say, don't tell us that the Mudra Yojana has empowered 9 crore youth. Excuse me. Do not forget also that more than 1,000 technology and health startups have started in India in the last 1 year. with more than 5,200 startups actually doing pretty well. And this is data out in the public domain. Point number 2, how does an economy grow when the tax to GDP improves without improving or increasing tax rates, which means the tax base needs to go up. And I want to tell you that if 56 lakh new taxpayers have been added, if 27 to 28% growth has been seen in e-filings, how can you say demonetization has been a failure? Where did those 65,000 crore, how did it come into Jan Dhan
Because
accounts?
that is not adding to excessive tax collection, Sanju.
How did 10,700 crore come into northeastern states? How did 16,000 crore come into regional rural banks? The point is demonetization has succeeded. 1.4 lakh crore is more than 1% of GDP, and that kind of black money being unaccounted for and suddenly getting accounted for in the banking system is something that needs to be given credit. It is no mean achievement, Supriya. I want to ask you one thing, Supriya. I want to ask you one thing. For everybody who says, you know, oh, credit offtake has been very poor. Why has nobody mentioned, and this is what I have written in my open letter to Mr. Yashwant Sinha as well. Do not forget that through private placement of bonds, India has raised more than 5.5 lakh crore in the last 1 year, 57,000 crore by way of IPOs in the last 1 year, and 36,000 crore by way of QIP, qualified institutional placements. So do not just measure the success of corporate investments by way of credit offtake. Be it IPOs, be it masala
I think you made your point there. I don't think we can get into the numbers and we can't talk about the money being raised. No, Sanju, please. Sanju, please indulge me now. I have indulged you for 3 long minutes. You have to indulge me now. Thank you very much for making that point. Jai Panda, a quick final word to you. One of the things that the Moody's report very categorically says is that, you know, apart from the reasons for an upgrade, there are some decisions that haven't reached to fruition. And those are reforms both in labor and land. 2 reforms that this government has been very wary of, has skirted the issue on. Do you believe that given this ratings upgrade now and the ease of doing business and all of that put together, this government can muster the political courage and the political will to bite the bullet both on land and labor?
Well, I mentioned already earlier in my comments that land and labor continue to be problematic for investment, which needs easing. But you know, any Indian government has a certain bandwidth of how much they can deal with at a given time. And we have seen this not just with this government or the previous one, but for many decades. Now, the reality is this, that even today the government doesn't have a majority in both houses. So for any significant changes to happen in land or labor at a national level, at the parliament level, there will have to be some discussions and get on board at least some sections of the opposition to make that pass. And I don't know whether that is feasible in today's very confrontational politics. It happened with GST because parties in the opposition, when they were in government, had also supported GST. But land and labor is not something on which there has been agreement yet, but these are very important issues. Nevertheless, I think there are many other things that the government can do. For example, I had earlier mentioned that enforcement of contracts is an area where we remain very low, number 164 out of 190 countries. This is something that the government could do, perhaps by setting up special courts, perhaps by other legislative changes in the enforcement of contracts. And I'm sure there are things that they can do that don't require legislative passage in parliament, which are executive decisions in terms of streamlining many of the governmental processes and systems, many of the still vestiges of the Inspector Raj which remain. I hope they will take that up on a priority.
All right, completely out of time on this very, very fiery debate as far as the ratings upgrade is concerned. Thank you very much, Sanju Verma, Ghansham Tiwari, Mohammad Khan and Jai Panda for joining us and putting things in perspective and talking about the politics of this upgrade. Now, a ratings upgrade isn't a mean achievement and definitely not one that comes after 14 long years. Also not when our peers get downgraded, and we are the first upgrade by Moody's since the huge credit crisis.
But the upgrade may not be the most accurate reflection of the macroeconomic realities on the ground. It should, though, be an enabler to boost sentiment in the economy and help fuel investment and create jobs that the nation has been waiting for. Thanks for being with us on this special edition of the India Development Debate. Good night.